Alright, Common Core Algebra 2, we are moving on to our next chapter of flipped lessons. This is going to be chapter 4, which is going to have, I believe, 10 flipped lessons. They're all going to be about what are called quadratics, which means anything that has an x squared term. Okay, we're going to do a lot of function notation in this one too, which we talked about towards the beginning of the year, which was stuff like f of x. Okay, the first section is going to be about graphing quadratics. Actually, the first two sections are going to be about graphing quadratics, and we're going to talk about them in two forms. Today, we're going to talk about what is called standard form. And in this standard form, we are going to find the vertex and the axis of symmetry and then the y-intercept. When we get together in class, we are going to talk about how to graph those. So first thing, what is standard form? Well, if we're using function notation, we'd say f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Now, remember that f of x really just means y. So an example would look something like this. You're also going to see that means the exact same thing. Y equals 5x squared minus 2x plus 6. These mean the same thing. This is just what is called function notation of your standard form. And it's just because we have something called a function here. So in our example, a, b, and c are always going to be numbers. And in this example, a is 5, b is a negative 2, and c is 6. Okay, and those numbers are going to be really important later when we start talking about quadratic formula and the vertex and all that. So to find the vertex, which is always going to be your lowest or your highest point, which we'll come more to that later, first thing we need to do is find the x-coordinate. So to find the x-coordinate, we have a formula that has to do with our standard form, and it is negative b over 2a. So we just find the constant for b, change the sign is what this really means, and divide that by 2 times a. Make sure you're careful with your order of operations in your calculator there. Once we have our x-coordinate, we want to then find our y-coordinate. So to find this y-coordinate, you're going to substitute the value that you just found in that previous step into the original equation you had. And that will simplify that, and you'll get your y-coordinate. So every vertex is going to be made up of some x and some y, just a point, an ordered pair. In our example, to find the x-coordinate first, I'm going to say x equals negative b. So we have a negative 4 for b. A negative of a negative 4 is a positive 4. So really that negative b means change the sign. All over 2a, which means 2 times 2 is going to give us 4. So that tells us that our x-coordinate is 1. And now we need to find our y-coordinate. Well, we can always find our y-coordinate by taking this value for 1, whatever our x-coordinate is, and plugging it back in. So that means we're looking for f of 1. So I'm going to have 2 times 1 squared. I'm replacing all my x's with 1. Minus 4 times 1 plus 6. And if I simplify that, 2 times 1 squared is 2, minus 4 times 1 is 4, plus 6, and 2 minus 4 plus 6 is 4. So that means that my y-coordinate is 4, which means the coordinates for our vertex are going to be 1, 4. We have 1 point here, and this is going to be the most valuable, one of the most valuable points we need to find. Okay, the other thing we're going to find then is what is called our axis of symmetry. Now this is just an imaginary line that runs vertically, we can even add that in, runs vertically through the vertex, so that's an important piece, splitting the parabola into two equal and symmetrical parts, hence the term axis of symmetry. Okay, the x-coordinate of the vertex, we already talked how to find that. That is your negative b over 2a. Well, the nice thing is once you've found that, negative b over 2a, once you've found that, you've already found your axis of symmetry as well, because they're the same value. So in your equation would actually be x equals negative b over 2a. This is really a valuable piece of information. That's going to give you the equation for the vertical line that is our axis of symmetry. So next piece is going to be our y-intercept, and if you remember back to the first 3 chapters, really, anytime we talked about y-intercept, our x-coordinate was always 0. Which means if we were to take 0 and plug it back in to figure out our y, the coordinates for the y-intercept, without actually even doing any work, are always, always, always going to be 0, c. So this gives us our y-intercept. So now we have found our vertex and we found our y-intercept. The last thing, well, let's do one more example here. So we always know our y-intercept is going to be 0, and then our c value here is 7. So the y-intercept for that is 0, 7. Hey, so we have found two very important points. The vertex and the y-intercept. Those are going to be really important when we graph. The only thing we have not talked about yet is going to be your point of symmetry. We're going to talk about how to find that point of symmetry in class tomorrow or next time we see each other. And then we're going to take all of that information and put it on a graph together. Okay, we'll see you next time.